the current results are quite good in terms of strikes on infantry and on vehicle. And what can be seen at the moment is that there is a substantial advantage on Ukrainian side, but of course these are still partial results because we are in the middle of the month, and sometime happened that data from other days or weeks before came only maybe at the end or all in a one day, and then suddenly you have these very big spikes. And but for now, as they look like very encouraging. One thing that I've done a couple of things in this new update. I inserted a new graph, is the 4th over the 6th that I posted, that is the difference in total FPV usage. Now this graph has been if useful, I hope will be useful, because many times I'm asked about how the difference goes through the months. Now, as soon as we start to look at this topic, we analyzed data, and we saw that at some point between October and November and December there was a decline. In that period, we saw an increase in Russian activity in this area, um, and was looking bad for Ukraine in terms of FPV. But after honestly the minimum level reached in December, this data start to increase, and you can see also from the global data. Thank you. And has been increasing so far every month. And so every month we had an advantage of Ukrainians of respectively 314, 355 drone attacks against Russian. So that means 314 and 355 in more than the Russian for each month for January and February. And already now in March, at the middle of the month, we are already at the level of January. So it looks like very likely that this will be repeated, even if not surpassed. And of course, this would mean that the minimum reached in December is likely to be, as I completely speculated, not completely, because we had some chat also with Alex from Wild Hornet. He told us that in the past, a lot of the issues in procuring drones was some parts that came from China, of course, and also from other countries. And due to different reasons, even simple shipping, and maybe in December, shipping due to Christmas is a bit hectic, you have delays. And this could be one reason. So essentially, the difficulties in sending this drone to the front line, which has resulted in a less number of strikes respect to the Russian, because after that has been always increasing without any doubt, and all the metric more or less say the same. I don't know if you have any question, or there is any question from the audience.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions about Daniele's like drone analysis, you're welcome to ask. I would direct people to our website, which has like sort of more laid out, proper, explanation. Or it's the same stuff as the tweets, but like more, I don't know, easier layout to understand, I think, in my opinion. But more than welcome to look at the tweets or look at the website, Tochnyi.info. Erlen, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Tochnyi.info, everybody. Daniele, did you want to say something?
Oh yeah, I want to say that in terms of the stat that Erland was kindly showing, that is a very good, but I still doubtful. I really hope that this is the real trend. And as you can see, this is the total number of strike with the night vision FPV drone, and Russian essentially has dominated this area since the beginning of its use. Now looks like that Ukraine have done a very big jump, and this is for sure thanks to the several organization, governative or not, volunteering or not, that are providing this type of drones to the Ukrainian army, because this jump is very large. And now the Russian are not performing well at the moment, but I'm suspicious about that. So I think at some point we will have like a single release of 50, 40 strikes all at once. So maybe they are closing the gap, but Russia, we know that Russia have a lot because they constantly had like 91, 101. So I I doubt that they have rapidly completely finished their stock. And the last stat that I started to also follow is against logistic. This is an experiment and is going to evolve as much data as I collect. And I think is the last tweet. And in that one, I just created two pie chart. I didn't want to go too much into the specific regarding both Russian and Ukrainian attack on logistic. And as you can see, the Russian attack on logistic, or at least on non-completely military targets, so trucks, cars, which include pickups, and loaf. For the Russian have done a very large work on on cars, of course, and we know that because Ukraine has been always asking and fundraising for pickups destroyed mainly from FPV. And these, of course, are more for transporting troops and some ammunition. So very, very, very little about logistic. Instead, trucks, of course, are the workhorse for logistic. And in fact, Ukraine has been hammering trucks. And these are only FPV because there is also drone drop, which is a substantial number, and also loaf. So Ukraine is definitely trying to destroy or at least attire, minimize the capability of the Russian to move um, any military equipment or ammunition across the front line. Also, because you have to imagine that since the advent of HIMARS, they have started to use a more dispersed strategy. So they started to have a smaller ammo depot. So these mean that they have to move much more frequently and often, often and in a more distant way from the front line ammunition. And so all these equipment, all these vehicles are crucial for them to sustain the war effort. And hampering or destroying, even better, destroying this type of vehicle is a real game changer because IMARS is not anymore able to hit this ammo depot because these ammo depot do not exist or are too far away. So, and you cannot produce those magnificent explosion that we observed in the past. So it's very important to destroy vehicles in order to limit the capability of moving goods. Yeah, and this is another graph about the attack on vehicles, which show uh, a staggering advantage of the Ukrainians. Now, the reason why we are seeing so few strikes from the Russian can be possibly due to a delay in the distribution of the videos. But if these things perdure and last, I think it's more because there is a lack of such equipment. And so this would be very, very important to understand their current capabilities. Because at the moment,
Yeah,
looks like that they have less, honestly. Even if
yeah, I
you
think
look
it's
at the total one, there is an increasing difference, and I don't think they start to say, "Oh no, we don't have to publish." So I really think they um, are going. They are having some issues. I think. I hope this is the truth. By the end of the month, we will have a better picture.
well. So yeah, I think this gets to one question, right? It's in the chat, which is sort of like I think you're pointing out something important about the data, right? So I think one thing to note is I've talked to other there's lots of people in Tochnyi who have looked at Daniela's data. That's one of the things we try to do our best is like peer review data. And as far as we can tell, like the footage strikes are pretty indicative of at least what's going on. In other words, I think what Daniel just said here is basically the key thing. Okay, you can't look at 1 month, for example. If Daniela just says, "Oh, this month like strikes are way down," like that's probably not something we want to look at as definitive, right? He was saying there's like lots of problems with that. There could be reasons why Russia doesn't release the footage yet. Like Russia tends to put these big compilations out, so they edit everything. So maybe it takes some time and they release things in bursts. What you want to look at is the cumulative long-term situation here, right? Like that has borne out as far as I can tell. It seems to follow the logic and rules of proper aggregated data, and the way it's being collected is totally I would say scientific. In other words, like Andrew and Gick just sit around all day and geolocate stuff and make sure that it's not old. And so that the data is collected and then it's run over this long span of time. So as a result, I mean, really, the thing is, if they have the footage, they show it. That's the thing about both Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine does it because they need the fundraising money. Like that's just they release footage for that reason. And then Russia does it, I think, for propaganda purposes. Like, and also they fundraise too. But like the point is, this is borne out. Like we've seen people put, like but anyways, the point is, obviously, there's things that aren't being filmed and aren't being captured on film. Like it's a war. There's secret military operations going on. We can't possibly speak to a comprehensive picture of the data. But I just want to stress, like in terms of like this is as good as it gets for us civilians, right? Like this is a completely aggregated look at all the videos that have come out ever, right? Like it's a massive amount. It's a big pile of data, so I wouldn't underestimate its efficacy over a long period. But you definitely don't want to look at it on a granular level or on a non-trend level, and try to read too much into the tea leaves. I don't know. Is that like a fair statement, Daniela?
Yeah, no, in fact, when I see something good, I always quite not skeptical, but I take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, the the results are slowing down on all, essentially all the chart, and they can be explained in different ways. But of course, I strongly doubt that the reason is because they decide to don't publish, because they publish a lot, and most of the time you have also to understand is that when they publish a video of a strike, it's not going to reveal much because it's just the strike. You see quite little. It's not like the drone dropping that you have time to see what's around. And normally they are mounted, they are quite edited in terms of understanding where you are. Something geolocating is quite challenging, but the guys do this very efficiently. So is so yes, I would wait at least the end of the month, and then the months after would be crucial because you start to see the trend. For now, the trend was consistent on both sides. Of course, there was some up and down during the month, but so I don't know if this is a good sign that the Russian essentially have give up to try to push on this weapon, which I think is not true. They are probably having some issues of some kind, maybe issues with the pilots, not enough pilot to also lack of dedicated ammunition, which can be another problem, and of course not the incredible amount of drone that they say that they have. So all these three things combined are problem that can limit your operation. Now, why Ukraine doesn't have? Well, because Ukraine doesn't have any other choice, because they have been in luck with everything in terms of artillery and precision guided munition like an FPV have been crucial to essentially erode the ability of the Russian, especially after the push on Adivka. So I'm quite inclined to be optimistic on this data, but only the next few weeks and possibly another month will tell us really what's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. So we have just a couple more questions for you. So I think this one speaks to just maybe an exchange we had recently, which is just how effective are the drone strikes against Russian refineries in the deep rear. So I want to stress this is not something we've looked into in a great deal of depth, like for example Daniela's work with the drone strikes on the front lines. But I do just mention I remember an exchange we had. So first off, I want to start with saying it seems to be, based on the reports we get, kind of a mixed bag. There are times when the drone strikes appear. For example, I should put it this way: all the drone strikes make the news, whether they're quote unquote successful or not. When it comes to actually looking at like the reports and the footage, it seems to me it's kind of a mixed bag. I'd say like a little over half of them seem to result in some pretty major fires or explosions. The rest appear to result in fires, but they get put out by firefighters, like happens a lot. The point is, I just remember an exchange we had maybe a couple months ago where we were like in a call or something, and like one specific strike happened, and we were looking at it, and you were showing that like they had targeted a very specific facility. Like, do you remember this?
Yeah, you mean
It's like a month ago,
the
I think, right?
yeah, was the steel plant. Yeah, that I don't remember the name, but despite I was looking at that plant for a month or two, because I was thinking which would be the best target for for essentially trying to destroy their military industry. So destroy
Okay, real quick, how far into Russian territory is that?
that one was 500, 600 kilometers.
Okay, so it's a good example of like a deep strike into a Russian plant, right? Like a
Maybe
refinery, but it was a
more.
steel plant specifically, just to clarify. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, but they hit essentially because this fire plant has gas operated furnaces, and so they hit the gas plant, so where gas is stored. Well, it was a very nice strike, putting that in, and also a secondary strike was on the cooling station and the cooling apparatus, so that plant will not operate for quite a long time.
Right. So I think this is like a
This,
great example of a long range strike, right? Because to me, it demonstrates, because you understand steel plants better, I think, than oil refineries, just from your experience. So my point is like, it kind of demonstrates that the Ukrainian drone strikes very clearly have specific, they understand exactly what they need to hit to really hurt the facility as badly as possible and cause the biggest explosion and also hit the most valuable little machine bits, and that they're capable of
yeah,
actually targeting that with their operation. So I just like, to me, that's kind of what the takeaway from that was. But go ahead, Daniel.
no, yeah, you're right, because these drones are not particularly effective with the hardened target. These are not Storm Shadow, so you can't destroy a refinery or a steel factory. We have seen what happened in Mariupol. They bombed them with the strategic bomber, with the bunkbuster bomb. It was essentially, of course, doing a lot of mess, but is but you are not able to completely destroy the structure, but you can probably with much less effort try to destroy something that is invaluable, and because you have to heat treat at the very least, but in this case also put at a high temperature the material to be able to work with it, destroying the source of that heat is perfect. You don't have to blow up everything. You just have to blow up one tank, because then everything will blow up. And we know that. And I remember I saw Geek show me the video, and when I jumped of joy when I saw the control flame, all of them in action, because that was a good sign. This was a good sign because tell to me that they have gas leaks, so they want to empty the line as soon as possible to try to avoid major damage. So this means that they had a very big damage in that area. So they did their homework for sure.
Yeah, so I think it to me, right, again, we're not experts on this by any means. We don't have anyone that studies this in detail, so I don't want to overstate our competence here, but like again, my anecdotal like exchange with Daniela on that one specific topic, like on a deep strike and on a Russian manufacturing facility, that indicates to me like they know what the target is. They know what they need to hit in the target, either to cause what we call like a sympathetic explosion, right? Meaning like a little boom causes a big boom because lots of fuel or something like that. Or they know like we need to hit that little machine part there because they can't get a replacement, right? And the goal seems to be, as Danielle was saying, you can't just blow up a whole factory. That's like not really feasible. But you can slow it down, right? You can make, for example, on their oil infrastructure, now they have to repair it. And to repair it, you have to like shut it down for a couple weeks, right? Like that's just part of the deal with repairing facilities like that. To repair it, you have to acquire new machinery. And to do that, they have to bypass sanctions. And to bypass sanctions, they can do it. We've seen them able to circumvent a lot of this stuff, but it's expensive and it takes time, right? So the point is, you're not going to shut down all these refineries or turn them into craters, but you can slow down their operations pretty substantially. And as Shukui saying in the chat, like this can cause a real direct effect on the price of oil and the availability of refined oil products in Russia as a result, I think. And that really hits their bottom line. I don't know, anything else you want to add, Danielle?
No, apart the fact that probably it's more than 2 weeks. Yeah. And also this factory and this machine, they have very large machine that normally need to be serviced and operated in order to be in condition. So, I mean, this was a very good target. I think they planned this very well. And another thing is that you create a dilemma. Should I repair and risk to be hit again? Or I should avoid and move the factory away? Or I should repair and place air defense? But if I have not enough air defense, what target I should, you know what I mean. You start to make your enemy thinking about dilemmas. Giving him dilemmas is even better. The same for Kerch Bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think we had one more question for you, Daniela, but I forget exactly what it was now.
There, I think. Thierry.
No, we already covered that one, and then there was like one more
Really?
I wanted to do.
No, I think this I saw. But
Oh well. Anyways, does anyone else have any questions on the panel? Anyone see any questions they wanted to cover from the chat? You're more than welcome to chime in now.
yeah, sorry, Joseph. I that one we didn't totally answer.
Sure.
I will be very brief. So for that question is, these are all strike. We are not talking about successful or not. Maybe for destroying a tank you need a 3, and then we count 3. But these are number of strike. Now the effect, unfortunately, is very hard to detect because you should have all the video, or at least a log with all the flight against that target, which is impossible, to be honest, because this means that the military have to give you that data. Maybe Ukrainians and Russian are collecting this data, and this would be very interesting after the war to understand the efficacy, the real efficacy of the weapon. But from this video is very hard to detect. However, I'm starting to see many video against mobile target, especially tank, even T-90s, being completely obliterated with just one single drone. This wasn't the case at the beginning. At the beginning, were always drone damage, tank damage or BMPs. But now we're looking at armored vehicle being strike, but just one drone. So my feeling is that these weapons are very much efficient, but they need a pilot, and the pilot need to be good. So also that will play a very big role in the efficiency. Sorry.
Yeah, I think just again, like I think as long as we understand the limitations on data like this, it's still extremely useful. It's probably the best we can get in terms of data. And also, I should mention, right, if Commission and others in the Defense Ministry are looking at it, then it would imply to me that like it's we probably aren't going to find a better picture of this. Maybe governments have access to better data, but my general view is that they're a little bit like behind on this drone thing. Like they're not super paying attention. That's just speculation on my part, but I don't think that governments are taking seriously like a need to calculate and aggregate all the information about these drone strikes. So I don't know. I think it's pretty important work. It's definitely there's like limitations like any data set, but as long as we use it responsibly and look at it in terms of trends and like Daniele was saying, we can't speak to the efficacy of the strikes. That's all kind of qualitative information that we can't really quantify. But if we just try to quantify the bits that we can and look at the trends, I think it's like really not only does it make sense what's happening, which is we see an exponential increase on strikes from both sides, and we see a very different application of usage based on their needs, right? Which both things comport with logic. And then we see various trends that I think you pointed out in your various reports. So yeah, I think it's good information, and yeah, keep plugging away at it, guys. good luck. I think if anything, we just need more people collecting and handling the data, right?
Yeah, the more data, the better, but also the data need to be controlled. So now in reality, there are at least another two new member in the basement with Andrew and Geek. So, and the reason is, I mean, by no surprise, is because the number of videos increased really, really a lot, and to the point that they couldn't finish in one day. So for this reason, I'm also quite happy because these reflect also the trend. So the more that curve goes up, the worse it is for them because they have to work more to obtain all the data.
Yeah, it's true, man. It's a lot of work. So yeah, hats off to those guys. Thank you for answering all those questions about your work, Daniela. Appreciate it. Again, last call. Any questions the panel wants to address? Okay, everyone.
Not from me.
Yep.
No, sorry. I just wanted to say said a little bit. No, I said it a little bit late. I just want to say not from me.
Oh, not from you. See. Okay. Yeah. So I think that'll wrap it up for us. So thanks everyone for tuning in this week. Thanks all for your questions. Thanks to our panel for stopping by to answer all the great questions from chat. Really appreciate everyone's participation in all this. As you guys know, our effort here is to provide accurate coverage and accurate information about what's going on in Ukraine. And we do appreciate everyone's feedback and participation in that to try to give us a better understanding of like what people are hearing on the internet about Ukraine, and then we'll do our best to kind of make sure that we get accurate information about those things. So yeah, thanks to everyone's participation. Thanks to our panel who's always doing their best to dig into all the details and make sure that everything that's being reported both by the media and by just the rumor mill on the internet is either accurate or what isn't accurate, and for sharing that information with everyone. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and participating, and we'll see everybody next week. Do we have a picture of the week this week, Erlen?
Yeah, it's basically firefighters from Odessa trying to clear up the mess after the terrorist attack, which killed, was it 12 civilians?
19. The count
19.
was up
Oh
12.
my God. Yeah.
Yeah, 19. 75 injured, I believe. Could be more.
And this is especially a cruel one where the Russians have, started this tactic where they double tap. First one missile, then another one shortly after, which unfortunately causes a lot more people to die because people are trying to help and evacuate injured people. So yeah, it's a sad picture. It's the reality in Ukraine on a daily basis.
Yep. So thanks again, everyone, for keeping Ukraine on your mind. Do your best. Contact your representatives, and just try to stay informed because it's important. So yeah, see you next week. Slava Ukraini.
Heroям слава.
Heroям слава.
Herojem Slava.
On behalf of